Okay, thank you very much, Jan and Mika. I think we are almost perfectly timing with our timing. So we're going to give you again the 10 minutes, almost 10 minutes for sending us questions. And then we will invite the speakers back to answer your questions. So we are just cutting out the audio connection again for a little bit less than 10 minutes, and then we will be back for the questions. So send us your questions by the text chat. Hello everybody. Welcome to the EcoClup Internationalization webinar. Okay, hello everybody. So we have two questions, and then from the audience here in Lahti, I think Jan and Mika have also received direct questions. So I'm inviting Jan and Mika back to answer the questions.
Thank you, Nina. I think we have two questions from here in Finland, which might be we could probably address first. The first one was, as I understand, about private equity and venture capital ratio. What kind of ratio in that kind of investing do we see in clean tech, on the clean tech side? And I could probably say now what I've heard recently is that private equity has pretty much dried out for the time being. We don't see any big deals. Some small ones are around, and private equity is really interested. It's going to come in a lot later than venture capital, so that's for sure. And that requires mature technologies, and there are plenty of that around nowadays. But they work in a different kind of environment. Private equity is pretty hard, no major deals around, but venture capital is pretty strong. I can't give any ratio. Jan, any comments on that?
Yeah, at least all the larger projects that are currently taking place that are in the public, so they are some kind of corporate venturing type of project. At least that would seem to be our view. But we don't know what happens in the future, so the markets are so that it might be that we see changes in quite near future, or it might take quite a long time before those markets are back into old days times when there are lots of investment there.
Right. And the next question kind of relates to the first one. On what level will private equity enter into this type of companies? And I had the diagram of many layers of companies, and the green balloons at the top, and customers at the bottom. So private equity goes to the top, and normally it's the requirement of the banks that they have the first bite into the revenue streams, which is actually the most important thing for them. The banks get the first bite. They have the senior secured debt. Then it kind of go up. You have the mezzanine, the middle layer. They get the next bite, and then if there's anything left, it goes to the investors. And what you need in mind here, one important point that people should take a look at extremely carefully in private equity deals. You have the waterfall, so-called waterfall. Where's the money gonna end up? It's normally at the end of intercreditor agreements, and people are too tired to read that, since it's 100 pages and it's the last page. And it's gonna tell you who's gonna make the money. But that causes the fact that the investors, the private equity, management are at the top. Banks are at the bottom, getting the first bite. All right, we have our view on using a fund structure as an investment vehicle. Hopefully we get this right. What we've seen is that the funds are seen often in these kind of cases. Venture capital funds, you see them, they take normally the maturity of the company so that they can control the sale for the next stage of investing. And funds are pretty good for that. In Finland, what we use is partnerships. A lot of funds use that, and I think it is a good way of coming in, especially if you have a good management, getting the fund in. Having external management people around, and in that sense, funds are a good way of getting into clean tech companies. But I'm not actually sure whether I'm answering the right question here. So
I was
give it a go.
just thinking about the same, but as said, so it's typical way how those are organized currently, and one of the reasons is based on the tax issues that we discussed earlier. So there might be a sort of partnership model, and that allows the flow-through treatment. So it's not an independent tax object, or that's one of the points that why those are perhaps used as well. So.
Right. Then we have crowd investing to survive the valley of death, and I think that's a really good idea. I'm a part-time securities lawyer as well, so the point to note here is that you cannot advertise too broadly, otherwise you're in breach of the securities laws, and you have to draft the prospectus, and that's going to cost a lot more than you actually getting in, probably. So it might be a good idea. I think these might be excellent ways of getting the deal done. What we've seen during the last months is that people really kind of business angels, and in good locations they connect a lot, and in some cases, let's say 10 people putting in money, that's I'm not sure whether that's a crowd. You can categorize that as a crowd, but we are scarcely populated land here in Finland, so maybe it's a crowd. So that's a good idea. The problem with these kind of investments is that there are plenty of people putting in their own money, and somebody's going to get anxious. Somebody's going to get their money, want to get their money back, want to get out. Who's going to buy that? How you control the people, the crowd? You have a shareholders agreement. Everybody reads that, and it's really thick as well. It might be a bit tricky. So as long as you develop a way of controlling what the crowd can do. Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for everybody joining the webinar from the partner locations of EcoClup partners and all of you who have been watching the webcasting. I think it's very challenging to make a conclusion of everything we've heard during the last 2.5 hours, but maybe something that is quite obvious that there is not just one way to go international. There is no one good advice that will help you through the internationalization process. But I think this was a very good practice, and I'm very happy, I'm very honored that we were able to share so much of experience and expertise from the companies that were visiting this webinar. So thank you very much. Thank you also for everybody for your interesting questions. EcoClup partners will be sharing this webcasting recording later. We hope that the technical requirements or everything has been going well with the recording. I also want to thank our trainee Susanna very much for helping us to get this webinar organized and technically working. I think everything went just fine. So thank you very much for joining, and I wish you a very nice evening. Bye bye.